The Tesla store on Sunset Boulevard was a palace of glass and chrome. Sleek electric cars sat on polished platforms under bright spotlights, the glossy surfaces of their bodies reflecting the sophistication of the future. Inside, customers chatted with salespeople, the air filled with the hum of admiration for the technology on display. The tinkling bell above the door drew all eyes as a young man entered. His appearance was striking not for its elegance, but for its stark contrast to the polished world around him. His hoodie was faded, its seams fraying slightly. His sneakers bore the marks of countless steps on gritty streets, and his unkempt hair hinted at a casual disdain for grooming. The salespeople exchanged glances, their perfectly tailored suits and shining shoes a silent commentary on the young man's incongruity. A chuckle rippled through the group, barely concealed behind smirks and whispered words. "Did he think this is a car show?" James muttered, his voice laced with mockery. James, the self-proclaimed star of the store, always prided himself on spotting serious buyers from mere dreamers. The young man seemed unaffected by the atmosphere. His eyes scanned the showroom with calm precision until they landed on the Tesla Model S Plaid. The flagship car gleamed under the lights, its futuristic curves whispering promises of speed and innovation. He walked toward it with purpose and placed his hand lightly on the door. He stood there for a moment, running his fingers along the car's smooth surface as if memorizing it. The crowd of salespeople watched in silence, their expressions a mix of confusion and amusement. James, unable to suppress his curiosity and disdain, stepped forward with an exaggeratedly welcoming grin. Well, he said loudly, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Looks like someone's got expensive taste." The young man turned his head slightly but didn't respond, his focus returning to the car. The onlookers whispered and chuckled. The gap between the gleaming Tesla and the young man's scuffed shoes couldn't have been more glaring. The showroom's atmosphere shifted into one of quiet tension, the kind that preceded a storm. All eyes were now on this unexpected figure as he stood, unmoving, in front of the Model S Plaid. James strutted toward the young man, his polished leather shoes clicking against the showroom floor. His arms crossed over his tailored suit jacket as he gave the stranger a once-over, his smirk growing wider. "That's the Model S Plaid you're admiring there," James began, his voice oozing condescension. "Fastest production car in the world. 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. Of course. You'd need a cool $135,000 to even think about taking it home. Bit ambitious, don't you think?" The young man finally turned to face him. His expression was calm, his dark eyes steady. For a moment, James faltered under the stranger's unflinching gaze, but his pride wouldn't allow him to back down. "Yeah, James said, clearing his throat. "Probably not the right car for you, my friend. Maybe something a little more practical? The catalog's got some older models you might like." Still, the young man didn't speak. His fingers traced the Tesla's door handle as though testing the car's pulse. The sleek metal reflected his faint smile, though it carried no trace of amusement. James's irritation mounted. He stepped closer, his voice hardening. "Listen, buddy, these cars aren't here for you to play pretend. They're worth more than you'll probably see in your lifetime. If you're not buying, I suggest you step away." The exchange caught the attention of other salespeople and even a few customers. James's co-workers stifled laughs, some whispering behind cupped hands. "Maybe he's here to apply for a janitor job," one of them muttered. The laughter swelled, rippling across the room like a tide. Customers smirked, shaking their heads at the absurdity of the scene. The young man, however, remained stoic. His hand fell away from the car, and he turned to face James fully. For the first time, he spoke. his voice soft but unwavering. "Is there a problem?" The simplicity of his question threw James off balance for a moment. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught in his throat. The young man's calmness, his utter lack of reaction to the taunts, was unnerving. No problem," James muttered finally, forcing out a laugh. "I just think this might not be the place for you." The young man's gaze lingered on James for a second longer before shifting back to the car. Without a word, he resumed his quiet inspection of the Model S Plaid, leaving James standing there, unsure whether he'd won or lost this round. Behind them, the murmurs and chuckles from the sales team grew louder, a chorus of judgment that filled the otherwise silent showroom. The young man remained impervious, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the brewing mockery surrounding him. James clenched his jaw, his frustration bubbling under the surface. Something about this stranger's unshakable composure gnawed at him. Though he couldn't quite place why, James returned to his colleagues, his frustration evident in the way he straightened his tie with an exaggerated tug. The others were already grinning, sensing an easy opportunity for amusement. "What's the deal, James?" Couldn't scare him off. One of them, a lanky man named Carl, teased. James rolled his eyes, but his smirk returned. "You know how some people are. Dream big, right? Poor guy probably thinks window shopping is the same as owning." Carl snickered. "I'm guessing he doesn't realize the insurance on that thing costs more than his rent." The laughter grew louder as more salespeople joined in. Even a few nearby customers smirked, drawn into the wave of derision that swept through the store. "Maybe he's working up the courage to ask if we have payment plans for shoestring budgets," added a younger salesperson named Brian, earning another round of chuckles. Amid the growing jeers, the young man continued to explore the car. He leaned down to study the wheels, his fingers hovering over the aerodynamic design. Every action was deliberate, as though he were absorbing the car's essence. James, emboldened by his coworkers, stepped closer again. This time, his tone was louder, meant to draw even more attention. "Careful there, buddy. Wouldn't want you scratching the paint with whatever's on your hands." The young man straightened slowly. His gaze met James's again, and this time, something flickered in the air between them, a quiet intensity that silenced the chatter for a brief moment. "Funny thing about respect," the young man said, his voice low but deliberate. "It says more about the person giving it than the one receiving it." James blinked, caught off guard. For a second, he seemed unsure whether to retort or laugh. But before he could respond, Carl piped up, "Whoa, James, did he just call you out? Better watch out. He's got wisdom to match his wallet." The group burst into laughter again, and the tension broke. The young man, undeterred, turned back to the car, his fingers brushing against its door handle. But not everyone found the scene entertaining. From across the room, Emma, one of the newer salespeople, observed with a furrowed brow. Unlike her coworkers, she felt uneasy about the ridicule. There was something dignified about the young man, despite his worn clothes, something that didn't deserve this level of scorn. As she watched him move around the car, she noticed the quiet precision of his actions. He wasn't gawking like a curious passerby. He was studying the vehicle, appreciating it in a way that seemed almost professional. Emma sighed, biting her lip. She hesitated for a moment, torn between remaining silent and stepping in. Finally, she pushed herself off the wall and began to walk toward the unfolding scene. Emma weaved her way through the crowd of salespeople, her heels clicking softly against the floor. She could feel the tension in the air, an almost palpable barrier of ridicule and derision directed at the young man. As she approached, James caught sight of her and raised an eyebrow. "Emma, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. coming to see the latest addition to our fan club." She ignored him and walked directly to the young man, who had just finished examining the car's sleek interior through the window. "Hi there," she said warmly, offering a small smile. "I'm Emma. Let me know if you have any questions, or if there's anything I can help you with." The young man looked at her, a flicker of surprise crossing his face before it softened into gratitude. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I'm just looking for now." James threw his hands in the air behind her. "Emma, seriously? Are you going to waste your time on this guy? He's not buying anything. He's just here to..." James. Emma interrupted, her voice firmer than anyone in the room had ever heard it. She turned to face him, her expression a mixture of disbelief and disappointment. "Do you ever stop? He's not bothering anyone. And he's not damaging the car. What exactly is the problem here?" James scoffed, looking around for support. "The problem is that this isn't a museum. It's a showroom. People come here to buy cars, not dream about them." Emma crossed her arms, refusing to back down. "And what if he's thinking of buying one? Or even if he's not, does that give you the right to treat him like this? Do you think this is the kind of image Tesla wants to project?" The room grew quiet as the other salespeople watched the confrontation unfold. Emma's words hung in the air, challenging the culture of mockery that had dominated moments earlier. The young man glanced at Emma, his expression calm but tinged with a hint of admiration. "Thank you," he said again, this time with more weight. Emma smiled at him before turning to James one last time. "Some people see more than what's on the surface. Maybe you should try it sometime." James opened his mouth to respond, but thought better of it. Instead, he shot her a glare and muttered something under his breath before retreating to his usual spot behind the counter. Emma turned back to the young man. "Take your time," she said gently. "This is one of my favorite models too. Let me know if you want to hear more about it." The young man nodded, his demeanor as composed as ever. "You're very kind," he said. "I appreciate that." As Emma walked away, the young man continued his quiet examination of the Model S Plaid. But this time, there was a subtle change in the room. The laughter had faded, replaced by an uneasy silence. Some of the salespeople exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of Emma's defense. James, standing at the edge of the showroom, seethed quietly. He couldn't shake the feeling that he'd lost control of the moment, and it gnawed at him. The young man, however, seemed untouched by the tension. He moved around the car with the same quiet precision, his actions as deliberate as before. If he noticed the stares, he didn't show it, and as Emma watched from a distance, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something extraordinary about this stranger, something none of them could see yet. After a thorough examination of the Model S Plaid, the young man straightened and took one last, lingering look at the car. His expression was unreadable, but there was a quiet resolve in his eyes. He began to make his way toward the exit, his movements steady and deliberate. As he approached the glass doors, James's voice rang out across the showroom, louder and more mocking than before. "Don't forget to grab a catalog on your way out. Dreams are free." The room erupted into laughter, a crescendo of ridicule that echoed against the gleaming surfaces of the store. Even a few customers, sensing the moment's momentum, allowed themselves small chuckles. The young man stopped in his tracks, his hand just inches from the door handle. Slowly, he turned to face the crowd. His gaze swept over the salespeople, pausing briefly on James. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath, but the young man said nothing. He simply gave a faint, enigmatic smile, then pushed open the door and stepped out into the sunlit street. The laughter lingered behind him, fading as the glass door swung shut. Emma watched him leave, her stomach twisting with unease. She turned to James, who was basking in the attention of his peers. "You're unbelievable," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the chatter. James shrugged, smirking. "What? It's not like he's going to lose sleep over it." Emma shook her head, disgusted. "Maybe not, but I will. Treating someone like that doesn't make you clever. It makes you cruel." Without waiting for a response, she walked away, retreating to the corner of the showroom to distance herself from the mockery. James laughed it off, turning back to Carl and Brian. "She'll get over it," he said dismissively. Outside, the young man paused on the sidewalk, his face now shielded by a pair of sleek sunglasses. He pulled a smartphone from his pocket, its screen reflecting a list of text messages and notifications. With a few quick swipes, he made a call. "It's me," he said after a moment. "I found the one I want." His voice was calm, but there was a quiet intensity to his tone. He glanced back at the Tesla showroom, where James and the others were still laughing inside. "I'll handle it tomorrow." He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. As he walked away, the sun glinted off his sunglasses, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. Inside the store, the laughter eventually subsided, leaving the sales team to return to their routine. But for Emma, the moment lingered. She couldn't shake the image of the young man's quiet dignity as he faced their ridicule. Something told her they hadn't seen the last of him. The following afternoon, the Tesla showroom bustled with its usual energy. Customers meandered among the cars, marveling at their sleek designs and futuristic features. Salespeople worked to secure deals, their polished smiles and well-rehearsed pitches filling the air. James, as usual, held court near the front desk, charming a middle-aged couple interested in a Model Y. The sound of an engine roaring outside, unexpected and loud, drew attention. Heads turned toward the wide glass windows that lined the showroom. Outside, a Tesla Roadster in a fiery red gleamed under the Los Angeles sun. It glided smoothly into a reserved parking spot directly in front of the store, its presence commanding attention like a celebrity on a red carpet. When the driver's door opened, murmurs rippled through the showroom. Out stepped the young man from the day before, though he was almost unrecognizable. Gone were the scuffed sneakers and worn hoodie. In their place was a tailored navy blue suit that fit him perfectly, paired with gleaming black leather shoes. A platinum watch sparkled on his wrist, its face glinting as he adjusted the cuff of his crisp white shirt. The air inside the store changed instantly. Conversations faltered, replaced by curious whispers. "Wait, is that him?" someone asked. "No way. That can't be the same guy," another whispered. But Emma recognized him immediately. She stood frozen near the charging station display, her heart skipping a beat as she watched him walk through the doors with an air of calm authority. He moved confidently, his sunglasses shielding his eyes as he scanned the room. James, engrossed in his sales pitch, caught sight of the commotion and turned. His jaw dropped. He stared at the young man, his usual smirk replaced by a look of confusion and disbelief. Before James could recover, the young man walked straight toward the Model S Plaid, the same car he had admired the day before. He stopped beside it, ran a hand along its glossy surface, and turned toward the sales desk. James, scrambling to regain his composure, hurried over, his voice uncharacteristically shaky. Welcome back, sir. Is there, something I can assist you with today?" The young man removed his sunglasses, slipping them into his jacket pocket. His gaze locked onto James, and the salesman felt a sudden weight in the silence that followed. "Yes," the young man said, his voice smooth but firm. "I've decided I want to purchase this Model S Plaid." He paused briefly, then added, "I'll be paying in cash." The room went completely still. Customers and salespeople alike froze, their eyes fixed on the young man. Even the couple James had been assisting stood in stunned silence. "You want to buy it?" James stammered, his usual bravado completely gone. The young man's faint smile didn't waver. "That's what I said." James blinked, his mind racing to catch up. "Of course. Excellent choice, sir," he said, slipping into his usual salesman persona, though it was clear he was struggling to maintain it. "Let me just, get the paperwork started for you." As James scurried off, the rest of the staff began whispering furiously. "Who is he? Where did he come from? Is he some kind of celebrity?" Emma, still watching from a distance, felt a mix of vindication and curiosity. She had sensed there was more to this young man than met the eye. But this sudden transformation was far beyond what she had imagined. James returned moments later, clutching a tablet and a folder. His hands trembled slightly as he placed them on the desk in front of the young man. "If you don't mind me asking, sir," James said cautiously, his earlier arrogance nowhere to be found. What do you do for a living?" The young man glanced at him, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "You could say," he replied, his tone enigmatic, "I have close ties to the automotive industry." James forced a laugh, but it came out strained. He nodded quickly and began typing on the tablet, his forehead glistening with sweat. As the young man signed the necessary forms, Emma noticed this subtle shift in his demeanor. He exuded quiet confidence, the kind that commanded respect without needing to demand it. She found herself admiring the way he carried himself, so self-assured yet so composed. When the paperwork was completed, James disappeared into the back office to process the sale. The young man turned, his eyes scanning the showroom until they landed on Emma. For a moment, their gazes locked, and she felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. Then, the store manager burst out of the back office, his face pale and his movements frantic. A piece of paper trembled in his hand as he approached James, who had just returned. "James," the manager hissed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Do you know who this is?" James frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" The manager held up the paperwork, his voice rising. "His name is Elon Musk." The room fell into stunned silence. "Musk?" someone whispered. "As in Elon Musk?" The manager nodded, his eyes wide. "He's Elon Musk's son?" The revelation hung in the air like a thunderclap, leaving everyone, including James, staring at Damien in utter shock. Damien, for his part, remained composed. He placed his sunglasses back on, his faint smile returning as he waited for the inevitable fallout. The stunned silence in the showroom stretched into an unbearable stillness. Elon Musk stood by the gleaming Model S Plaid, calm and collected, as though oblivious to the storm his identity had unleashed. James's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, his brain racing but failing to catch up. When he finally managed to speak, his voice cracked. You're Elon Musk's son?" Damien tilted his head slightly, a faint smirk tugging at the corners of his lips. "That's correct." The room erupted into hushed murmurs. Salespeople exchanged frantic whispers, some gesturing discreetly toward the back office, as if to confirm the revelation. Customers, too, began murmuring excitedly, pulling out their phones as if this moment demanded documentation. Emma, standing near the display table, felt her heart skip a beat. She had sensed there was more to Damien than met the eye. But this, she would never have guessed. She couldn't help but glance at James, whose confidence had evaporated like steam. The store manager, still clutching the paperwork, stepped forward, his expression a mixture of panic and desperation. "Mr. Musk," he stammered, It's an honor to have you in our showroom. If there's anything you need, anything at all, please don't hesitate to let me know personally." Damien's gaze shifted to the manager, his face unreadable. "I appreciate that," he replied politely but curtly. Then, turning back to James, his tone hardened, each word measured and deliberate. "But I'm more interested in how your staff treats their customers. All their customers." The subtle reprimand landed like a punch. James shifted uncomfortably, his earlier bravado completely drained. "Mr. Musk," James began, his voice trembling. I didn't realize who you were." "If I had known," Damien cut him off with a raised hand. His calm expression did not mask the steely resolve in his eyes. "And that's the problem, isn't it? You didn't know who I was, so you assumed I wasn't worth your time. Tell me, is that how Tesla trains its employees?" The question was rhetorical, but its weight hung heavily in the air. James struggled to form a response, his face flushed and his hands clenching nervously. Damien took a step closer, his voice quiet but firm. "Respect shouldn't depend on who someone is or what they wear. Everyone who walks into this store deserves to be treated with dignity. That's not just good business, it's basic decency." The words were a blow James couldn't deflect. He nodded weakly, his eyes fixed on the floor. "You're right, sir." Before he could finish, the sound of an engine rumbling outside drew everyone's attention. A Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the lot, its futuristic design commanding immediate awe. The vehicle rolled to a stop, and the driver's door opened. Out stepped Elon Musk himself. The store fell into stunned silence again as the legendary entrepreneur and CEO strode toward the entrance. He was dressed simply in a black t-shirt and jeans, his casual attire a stark contrast to the air of authority he carried with him. The glass doors swung open, and Elon entered with a brisk stride. His eyes immediately sought out Damien, softening as they met his son's. "There you are," he said, his voice warm. "Have you picked the car you want?" Damien nodded toward the Model S Plaid. "This one?" Elon smiled and clapped a hand on Damien's shoulder. "Good choice. It's a beauty." Then, he turned to the store manager, who was practically tripping over himself to stand straight. "My son told me about his visit yesterday," Elon said, his tone calm but edged with authority. "He shared some details that are concerning. I trust you can explain." The manager paled visibly. He stammered, glancing at James as though hoping to deflect blame. "Mr. Musk, don't," Elon interrupted, holding up a hand. "I don't want excuses. I want accountability." All eyes turned to James, whose face had gone ashen. The manager pointed hesitantly. It was James, sir. He was responsible for the situation. James took an involuntary step back, his hands trembling. "Mr. Musk, I didn't know, I swear." "If I'd known," Elon's gaze pinned him in place, unyielding and sharp. "And that's the second time I've heard that excuse today," he said evenly. "Do you believe it justifies how you treated my son or anyone else? For that matter?" James swallowed hard, his throat dry. "No, sir," he muttered, his voice barely audible. Elon nodded, his expression unrelenting. "Good. Then you understand why you're no longer a Tesla employee. Pack your things." The statement hit like a bombshell. The other salespeople gasped softly, while customers watched in shock. James's face crumpled as he tried one last plea. "Mr. Musk, please. It was a misunderstanding. I didn't mean any harm." Elon held up a hand again, silencing him. "No misunderstanding justifies treating someone with disrespect. That's not how we operate at Tesla. Pack your things." James, defeated. James lowered his head and turned to leave, his footsteps heavy as he trudged toward the back office. Damien watched him go, his expression unreadable. Then, he turned to Emma, who stood rooted to the spot, her face a mix of surprise and relief. "Thank you," Damien said, his voice softer now, "for treating me like a person yesterday, when no one else did." Emma blinked, startled by the directness of his gratitude. You're welcome," she managed, her cheeks flushing slightly. Damien smiled. "Would you join me for coffee sometime? I'd like to thank you properly." Emma's eyes widened, and for a moment, she was too stunned to respond. Then, a smile broke across her face. "I'd love that." The room buzzed with muted energy as Damien and Elon exited the store together, leaving behind an audience grappling with the whirlwind of revelations and consequences. The lesson, however, was clear. Respect transcends status, and those who fail to recognize that will always face their reckoning. As the door closed behind Damien and Elon Musk, the showroom remained suspended in a hushed daze. Salespeople glanced at one another, their faces a mix of guilt, disbelief, and apprehension. Customers murmured among themselves, some already texting or posting about the dramatic scene they had just witnessed. Emma leaned against the display counter, her mind still reeling from Damien's parting words. She couldn't quite believe what had just happened, or that Elon Musk, the son of one of the most influential men on the planet, had asked her out for coffee. The store manager cleared his throat, attempting to regain control of the room. "All right, everyone," he said, his voice tight. "Let's get back to work. What's happened is unfortunate, but we need to maintain professionalism." Carl, still pale from the ordeal, muttered under his breath to Brian, "I can't believe it. All this time, we treated him like a nobody." Brian nodded, his usual smug expression replaced by a reflective frown. "We really screwed up." Emma overheard their exchange and turned to face them, her voice calm but firm. "Maybe it's time we think about how we treat people in general, not just the ones we think can afford something." Carl and Brian avoided her gaze, nodding reluctantly. Outside, Damien and Elon stood beside the Model S Plaid. A sleek delivery truck pulled up moments later, ready to transport the car to Damien's home. "I'm proud of you," Elon said, his tone warm but serious. Damien raised an eyebrow, his expression curious. "For what?" "For how you handled everything," Elon replied. "You could have walked in there and thrown your weight around from the start, demanded attention because of your name. But you didn't. You stayed calm, observed, and let people reveal their true colors." Damien smiled faintly. "I didn't want to use the family name as a shortcut. Respect means more when it's earned, don't you think?" Elon nodded approvingly. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. It's a lesson most people never learn." "I'm glad you have." The two men exchanged a quiet moment of understanding before Damien turned to watch as his new car was loaded onto the truck. "What about James?" Damien asked after a pause. Elon shrugged. "He had to go. Tesla's about more than just innovation and technology. It's about values. If our employees don't embody those values, they can't stay." Damien nodded but didn't respond. He understood his father's decision, though a part of him still felt conflicted about seeing someone lose their livelihood. Later that evening, Emma received a message on her phone. It was from Damien. "Hey, Emma, are you free tomorrow? Coffee's on me." She smiled, rereading the message twice before typing her reply. "I'd love that. Just tell me where and when." The next day, as the sun dipped low over Los Angeles, Emma and Damien sat across from each other at a small cafe, the hum of conversation and the aroma of coffee filling the air. "I have to admit," Emma said, stirring her latte, "when you walked into the showroom yesterday, I had no idea you'd turn out to be, well, you." Damien chuckled. The sound light and unguarded. That was kind of the point. I wanted to see how I'd be treated as just another person. Let's just say the results were enlightening. Emma shook her head, her expression rueful. I'm sorry you had to go through that. James and the others were awful. Damien waved off her apology. Not everyone was awful. You weren't. That's what matters. Emma smiled, her cheeks tinged with a faint blush. Well, I'm glad I could help. And I guess I owe you a thank you too. For what? For reminding me that integrity still matters. Emma said sincerely. Even when it's not easy. The conversation flowed effortlessly after that. A blend of shared laughs and honest reflections. Damien spoke of his vision for a future where kindness and innovation could coexist, while Emma shared her hopes for creating connections that truly mattered. Meanwhile, back at the Tesla showroom, the staff had learned a hard lesson. The story of Elon Musk's visit became a cautionary tale, a reminder that appearances can be deceiving and that respect should never be conditional. As Damien and Emma left the cafe that evening, the beginnings of a meaningful connection had taken root. And for Damien, the experience had solidified a truth he would carry forward in every venture. The greatest advancements in technology or society mean little if they aren't accompanied by respect for the humanity that drives them. Across the city, the Model S Plaid sat in Damien's garage, gleaming under soft lights, a symbol of both triumph and transformation. The story of Elon Musk's visit to the Tesla showroom didn't end within the walls of the store. By the following week, the incident had gone viral. Damien, true to his unassuming nature, shared the story on his social media account with a single, impactful caption. Respect isn't about what someone wears or what they own. It's about recognizing their humanity. Yesterday was a lesson, not just for the staff at Tesla, but for all of us. The post included a photo of the fiery red Tesla Roadster parked in front of the showroom, accompanied by a candid picture of Emma walking him through the car's features. Within hours, the post had garnered millions of likes, thousands of comments, and even a response from his father. Elon Musk, proud of you. Damien, innovation means nothing without integrity. The comments section erupted with praise. This is the kind of leadership we need in the world. Shout out to Emma for doing the right thing when no one else did. A powerful reminder that respect costs nothing, but means everything. Emma's own life changed in the wake of Damien's post. Overnight, she became a minor celebrity among Tesla employees and beyond. Messages flooded her inbox, ranging from congratulatory notes to heartfelt stories from strangers who had faced similar situations. The Tesla showroom, too, felt the impact. Elon Musk's direct involvement sent shockwaves through the corporate hierarchy. The incident sparked an internal review of customer service policies, emphasizing the importance of humility and respect at every level. Training sessions were scheduled, and employees were encouraged to reflect on the values that Tesla aspired to uphold. As for James, his abrupt dismissal served as a cautionary tale that rippled through the industry. Though he attempted to spin the story in his favor, his behavior had already made its way into the public discourse, and finding new employment proved challenging. Months later, Damien and Emma's connection had grown into a deep friendship, one that hinted at the possibility of something more. They often met to discuss everything from the future of sustainable energy to their favorite books. One evening, over coffee in a quiet cafe, Emma asked, "Do you ever think about how much that one day at the showroom changed things? Not just for us, but for everyone involved." Damien smiled thoughtfully. "I think about it all the time. It's funny, isn't it? Something as simple as buying a car ended up teaching so many lessons." Emma nodded. It's a reminder that even the smallest actions can have a big impact. You walking and dressed the way you did it made people show their true colors. And you, Damien added, his voice soft. Showed yours. Emma blushed, looking down at her coffee cup with a smile. I was just doing what felt right. That's what makes it so rare. Damien replied. Their conversation drifted to lighter topics, laughter mingling with the clink of mugs on the wooden table. Yet, beneath the surface, both felt the weight of what had been forged between them, a bond rooted in mutual respect and shared values. Back at the Tesla showroom, the culture had begun to shift. Emma was promoted to a managerial position, tasked with mentoring new hires and fostering an atmosphere of inclusivity and respect. Carl and Brian, humbled by the incident, had adopted a more conscientious approach to their work. The Model S Plaid Damien had purchased became a symbol of the encounter. Occasionally, he would drive it to the showroom to visit Emma, his presence a reminder of the lessons learned that day. And so, what began as a moment of humiliation and misunderstanding grew into something far greater, a story about humanity, dignity, and the quiet power of treating people with kindness. No matter who they are or where they come from, Damien's post remained pinned at the top of his social media profile, a beacon of inspiration to millions. Beneath it, Emma had left a comment, simple yet profound. One act of kindness can change everything. The ripples of the Tesla showroom incident extended far beyond the immediate players involved. It became a cultural touchstone, retold in boardrooms, schools, and online forums as a lesson in humility and integrity. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a moment that underscored how corporate culture must align with values of respect and equity. For Damien, the experience shaped the next chapter of his life. Inspired by Emma's genuine compassion and the conversations they had shared, he launched an initiative within Tesla that he named Project Humanity. The initiative focused on creating more equitable experiences across Tesla's customer-facing operations. It implemented new hiring protocols to attract people who embodied empathy and emotional intelligence. Not just sales skills, regular training sessions were held, focusing on inclusivity, emotional intelligence, and customer-first principles. The tagline for Project Humanity, coined by Damien and approved by Elon himself, was simple yet powerful. Innovation begins with respect. The initiative became a model for other companies, sparking similar movements in industries far removed from automotive technology. Tesla showrooms worldwide began to shift, emphasizing not just the futuristic appeal of their vehicles, but also the humanity behind their brand. Damien and Emma's connection continued to deepen, evolving into a partnership that surprised no one who knew them. What began as gratitude blossomed into a meaningful relationship built on mutual admiration and trust. One evening, as they walked through Griffith Park under a sky studded with stars, Damien turned to Emma. His voice carried a mix of vulnerability and determination. "You changed the way I see people," he said. "I've grown up surrounded by innovation and ambition, but I've learned from you that none of it matters if we forget to treat each other with kindness." Emma smiled softly, her hand brushing against his. "You've taught me just as much." Damien, standing up for what's right doesn't always mean shouting the loudest. It can be as simple as staying calm and letting your actions speak for you. They paused at a scenic overlook. The city sprawled below them in a sea of lights. Damien reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. "I want us to keep building something together," he said, opening the box to reveal a simple yet elegant ring. "You've been with me through the moments that mattered most, and I want that to continue for as long as we can." Emma gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Tears filled her eyes as she nodded, unable to find the words at first. Finally, she managed a quiet, heartfelt yes. Their engagement became a new chapter not just for them, but for the public who had followed their story. The announcement, shared via a joint post on Damien's social media, quickly went viral. With the same poignant caption from his earlier post, respect isn't about what someone wears or what they own. It's about recognizing their humanity. Back at the Tesla showroom on Sunset Boulevard, Emma's leadership had transformed the space. Under her guidance, the staff had become a team of genuine advocates for the brand's mission, treating every customer with the same dignity and enthusiasm. One afternoon, a young man entered the showroom. His clothes were modest, his sneakers well-worn. The salespeople greeted him warmly, each eager to assist without judgment or assumptions. Emma watched from her office, a quiet smile on her lips. The young man approached her after exploring the showroom, his excitement barely contained as he asked about the Model 3. "Take your time," Emma said kindly. "We're here to help you find what works best for you." He nodded gratefully, his face lighting up. As he walked away, Emma couldn't help but think back to that pivotal day when a stranger in worn-out sneakers had forever changed her life and the culture of Tesla itself. Years later, as Damien and Emma worked together to expand Project Humanity, their shared journey remained a testament to the idea that the smallest acts of kindness can spark profound change. Their story was told in schools and corporate seminars, their names synonymous with respect, humility, and innovation. For Damien, the lessons he learned that day in the showroom became the foundation of his future ventures. A constant reminder that no matter how advanced the technology, humanity must always come first. And for Emma, her decision to stand up for what was right, even when it wasn't easy, was a choice that had shaped not just her future, but the future of those around her. In the end, their shared legacy wasn't just about cars or businesses. It was about people, every person, everywhere deserving to be seen, heard, and valued. And it all began with one act of kindness. As years passed, Project Humanity evolved from an internal initiative into a global movement. The program, spearheaded by Damien and Emma, extended beyond Tesla, offering workshops and consulting services to other companies looking to transform their cultures. The mission was simple: build businesses that value people as much as profit. Tesla became a shining example of this principle in action. Under Damien's influence, new programs were introduced, such as the Customer First Fellowship, which recognized employees who demonstrated exceptional empathy and kindness. Stories of Tesla employees going above and beyond for customers became part of the company's identity. Emma, now a co-director of Project Humanity, used her platform to highlight stories of everyday heroes in the workplace. She believed that celebrating small acts of kindness could inspire others to follow suit. One of her most popular campaigns, Every Smile Matters, collected real stories of employees and customers sharing transformative moments of respect and connection. Damien and Emma's lives became a delicate balance of public leadership and private joy. Their wedding, a modest yet elegant affair, took place at a vineyard in Northern California, surrounded by close friends, family, and a few notable figures, including Elon Musk. The ceremony was as heartfelt as it was intimate. In his vows, Damien said, "I never thought someone could teach me more about the world than my own experiences. But you've shown me that humility and kindness can accomplish what no invention ever could, bringing people together. I promise to carry that lesson with me." Always, Emma's voice trembled with emotion as she responded, "You showed me that even in the most unexpected moments, there's room for transformation. I promise to stand by you as we keep building something meaningful, not just for us, but for everyone we touch." Their wedding photo, simple and unposed, became an iconic image that resonated far beyond their circle of loved ones. It was featured in news outlets and became a symbol of love, respect, and shared purpose. As Damien and Emma settled into married life, their work only grew. They established a nonprofit called the Humility Collective, dedicated to supporting underrepresented communities in tech and business. The organization provided mentorship, scholarships, and grants to individuals with innovative ideas but limited access to resources. In time, the Humility Collective became as influential as Tesla itself. Tech leaders, educators, and policymakers partnered with the organization. Inspired by Damien and Emma's story, they also began working with schools, introducing programs that taught young people about the importance of emotional intelligence and ethical decision-making in a rapidly changing world. They believed that shaping the next generation of leaders required more than just academic success. It required character. One crisp autumn evening, Damien and Emma sat together on the balcony of their Los Angeles home, overlooking the twinkling city lights. A soft breeze rustled the leaves of the trees surrounding their property, carrying with it the distant hum of traffic. Damien held a glass of wine in his hand, his gaze thoughtful. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" he asked, his voice quiet. Emma leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "All the time," she said with a smile. "I still remember that look on James's face when your name was revealed." Damien chuckled, though his expression turned contemplative. "It's funny, isn't it? One day, one decision, and everything changed. For me, for you, for so many people." Emma nodded, tracing her finger along the edge of her wine glass. "It wasn't just the day," she said. "It was the choices we made after. We could have walked away, let it be just another story. But instead, we turned it into something bigger." Damien kissed her temple, his voice warm. "And that's why I fell in love with you. You saw the potential in every moment, even the tough ones." They sat in silence for a while, content in each other's presence. The city lights flickered like stars below them, a reminder of the world they were striving to improve. Years later, Damien and Emma's story became the subject of a best-selling book, Respect, The Humanity Behind Innovation, which chronicled their journey from that fateful day in the Tesla showroom to their work as global changemakers. The book became a staple in universities and business schools, inspiring countless readers to prioritize integrity and compassion in their personal and professional lives. The lessons they championed endured, influencing generations. Their belief that even the smallest actions could create profound change remained a guiding principle for individuals and organizations alike. And in the hearts of those who had been touched by their work, Damien and Emma's legacy was clear. The future wasn't just about the technology we built or the wealth we amassed. It was about the connections we fostered and the respect we showed to one another. Every single day, their story wasn't just an extraordinary tale. It was a reminder of what humanity could achieve when kindness led the way. As decades passed, the world continued to evolve, driven by the advancements in technology and the growing emphasis on sustainability and inclusivity. Yet, through all the changes, Damien and Emma Musk's story remained a cultural touchstone, a beacon of what could be achieved when respect and innovation were intertwined. The Humility Collective, the nonprofit they founded, grew into a global network of initiatives. Its programs touched lives across continents, from funding renewable energy projects in remote villages to mentoring the next generation of entrepreneurs in underserved communities. Every year, the organization held a summit called Humanity Forward, bringing together visionaries from all walks of life to share ideas and solutions that prioritized people and the planet. Tesla, too, thrived under the enduring influence of Project Humanity. The company's approach to customer service became a benchmark in the corporate world, proving that profitability and ethical practices could go hand in hand. New employees were required to take part in immersive empathy training, a program that Damien and Emma personally designed in Tesla's early days of transformation. One evening, Damien and Emma sat together in a bustling conference hall in Tokyo. They were keynote speakers at Humanity Forward, addressing a crowd of thousands, with millions more watching the live stream. Emma stood at the podium first, her presence calm but commanding. Kindness isn't just a personal virtue, she began, her voice steady. It's a force for systemic change. When we choose compassion in our businesses, in our policies, in our innovations, we don't just improve individual lives, we build a better world for everyone. She stepped back, and Damien took her place, his tone warmer but no less impactful. Years ago, I walked into a Tesla showroom, dressed in a way that didn't fit expectations. That experience taught me that respect isn't about appearances. It's about seeing the value in every person you meet. Today, I'm proud to say that lesson has shaped everything we've done, from our smallest choices to our biggest ventures. Their words resonated deeply, and when the event concluded, a standing ovation filled the hall. The applause was for more than just their speeches. It was for the movement they had built, the lives they had touched, and the legacy they had created together. In their later years, Damien and Emma reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. They lived in a house surrounded by nature, a serene retreat where they often hosted gatherings of friends, family, and colleagues. One quiet afternoon, as they strolled through their garden, Emma paused by a bench overlooking a small pond. "Do you ever miss the chaos of those early days?" she asked. Smiling up at Damien, he chuckled, sitting beside her. Sometimes, there was an energy to it, a sense of discovery. "But I wouldn't trade this for anything." Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. "Neither would I." Their conversations often turned to the day that had started it all, the Tesla showroom and the lessons it had brought. It was a story they had shared countless times, but it never lost its significance. "I think what I'm most grateful for," Damien said one day, "is that we didn't let it end there. We could have walked away and moved on, but we didn't. We turned it into something bigger." Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting the calm certainty of a life well lived. "We built something that matters, and that's all I've ever wanted." After their passing, Damien and Emma's legacy continued to thrive. The Humanity Collective expanded to new heights, with initiatives that spanned everything from ethical AI development to mental health support for workers in high-pressure industries. Their story became immortalized not only in books and films, but also in the hearts of millions who believed in the power of compassion. In a quiet corner of a Tesla showroom in Los Angeles, a small plaque was installed years later. It bore a simple inscription, one that captured the essence of Damien and Emma's journey. "Respect is the foundation of innovation. Kindness is the engine of progress." Every visitor who passed through those doors, whether wearing a tailored suit or worn-out sneakers, could see the plaque and feel the quiet weight of its truth. And so, the lesson lived on, shaping a world where humanity and progress walked hand in hand, just as Damien and Emma had always envisioned.